The tall one laughed first. That's usually how it goes. He was looking at my desk, the actual physical desk, wood composite surface, a wire tray of forms, a hand stamp inker and me. When the sound came out of him, a long, reedy exhalation that his translator rendered as laughter, though it sounded more like a pipe slowly losing pressure. His two associates joined in. The three of them stood in the cargo bay of neutral trade station Halvek 9, blended in the layered gray robes of a Vehari commercial envoy delegation. And they laughed at my desk. I stamped the form I was working on and set it in the outbound tray. "Welcome to Halvek 9, I said. "I'm Senna Oric, Station Quartermaster. You'll need to complete a berth authorization request before I can assign your vessels a docking slot." I slid 3 forms across the desk, paper forms. The Vehari looked at them, the way you'd look at something you'd found on the bottom of your boot. The tall one, Senior Envoy Thalek Vorin, according to the advance notice I'd received 11 days prior, picked up the top sheet between 2 long fingers and held it at arm's length. He said something to his associates. The translator clipped in a half-second behind. "He is asking if the station runs on handcraft." "Ink dries faster than our network connection at this end of the corridor," I said. "Berths 4, 6, and 9 are currently available. If you'd fill in the vessel registration numbers in Section 2, I can get you processed." Vorin set the form back down without filling anything in. He told me, via the translator, that the Vehari commercial delegation did not complete forms. He told me that they had corresponded with station administration regarding their arrival. He told me that their 3 vessels were already in approach, and that berths would be made available as a matter of course. "I am station administration," I said. "Berths 4, 6, and 9, Section 2. He looked at me the way the very tall sometimes look at the average height, a long, slow downward appraisal. Then he smiled. The Vehari version involves the inner set of eyelids sliding half shut, and told his associates something the translator rendered as a keeper of lists. They found this funny too. I pulled a second set of forms from the drawer and began pre-filling the vessel registration numbers myself, from advance notice since I had them anyway. It saved time. The Vehari moved to berths 4, 6, and 9 without completing Section 2. I noted this on the forms, initialed the notation, and placed the forms in the pending tray. Over the next 2 hours, the Vehari unloaded. They were efficient about it, I'll give them that. Long-limbed and quick, with a smooth, coordinated way of moving cargo that spoke to practice. Their goods came off the ships and into the bay in good order. I logged each item as it crossed the threshold, because that is what the job is, and because Trade Compact Statute 7 requires a manifest countersignature for any commercial goods staged at a neutral station. I mentioned this to Vorin's logistics coordinator when she came to the desk for a pallet marker. She told me that the Vehari delegation considered the Trade Compact's administrative requirements an artifact of an earlier era, and that their legal team had established that the Compact's manifest provisions were advisory, rather than mandatory for member delegations of Vehari standing. I gave her the pallet marker and slid a manifest form across the desk. She left the form. I filled it in from my own cargo logs, since I had them, noted that the countersignature line was blank, initialed the notation, and placed the form in the pending tray. At the 4-hour mark, Vorin came back to my desk. He had decided to be genial. He leaned on the desk with both long forearms and explained to me, in the patient tone of someone explaining a door handle to a houseplant, that his delegation was here on a matter of some commercial significance to the region, that their schedule was precise, and that a single human quartermaster with a wire tray of paper forms was a charming vestige of an earlier administrative model but was not, in practical terms, a meaningful obstacle to Vehari commercial activity. I agreed that I was one person. He smiled again with the inner eyelids, mentioned that I had a provisional hold request pending on berths 4, 6, and 9, originating from the Lithani Freight Cooperative, who had reserved those berths 11 days prior, the same 11 days during which I had been expecting the Vehari advance notice to include a formal berth authorization request, which it had not. Vorin's smile stayed in place. He said the Lithani could wait. I said that was one option, and slid a priority displacement authorization form across the desk, which, if signed by the senior envoy, formally supersede the Lethani hold and place the Vehari delegation's occupancy on legal record. He looked at the form. He told me he did not sign forms. I said that was also an option. I put the form in the pending tray. Unsigned, noted the declination, initialed it. At the 6-hour mark, Voron's legal coordinator came to the desk with a data tablet and explained to me, at some length, and with evident satisfaction, that under compact administrative precedent, physical occupancy of a berth for a continuous period, exceeding 4 hours constituted an implied authorization, making the paper form process redundant. She showed me the precedent citation on her tablet. It was real, I'd read it before. I read it again. I agreed it was an interesting precedent. Then I showed her Trade Compact Statute 7, subsection 12, paragraph 4, which I had printed, and kept in the left-hand drawer for occasions like this one. Subsection 12 provides that any commercial goods staged at a neutral station without a countersigned manifest, in berths occupied without a formal authorization on record, are classified as unsecured cargo under disputed claim, and that the station, Quartermaster, is required, not permitted but required, to file an impound hold with the station's docking management system until the documentation is resolved. I had filed it at the 4.5-hour mark, while Voron was being genial at my desk. The station's docking clamps are not dramatic. They don't clang or boom. They engage with a low hydraulic sigh and a series of soft indicator lights along the berth collar, amber going to red. You could miss it if you weren't watching the board. Voron was not watching the board. His logistics coordinator was. She said something to him. Turned. He looked at the board. He looked at me. I had a copy of Statute 7, subsection 12 ready. I slid it across the desk. The release process, I explained, required a completed berth authorization form. Sections 1 through 4, a countersigned cargo manifest for each of the 3 vessels, and a priority displacement authorization to settle the outstanding Lethani hold. Once those were in the completed tray, process the release and have them on their way. Standard turnaround was about 20 minutes, assuming the paperwork was in order. Voron stood at my desk for a long moment. His associates stood behind him. The inner eyelids were not doing the smile anymore. He picked up the berth authorization form. He looked at it. He picked up the pen I keep clipped to the wire tray for exactly this purpose. Section 2 first, I said. Vessel registration numbers. He filled in Section 2. I processed them out in 18 minutes. The Lethani came in right on their reservation and didn't have to wait at all, which I appreciated, because their coordinator always brings the paperwork pre-filled and it makes the shift go smoother. I filed the Vehari forms in the completed tray and noted the outcome in the station log. No flags, no incidents. I suppose, if you're used to being the tallest thing in the room, the desk looks small. But the desk is where the forms are. Forms are what lock the clamps. I stamped the last sheet and put it away.